that discussions on the electoral law reforms should begin immediately, and that enactment of necessary electoral laws be done at least 12 months before the 2027 elections.
The reconstitution of IEBC is a matter of grave national interest, and we should approach it as such. Election campaign financing, another area under consideration at this forum, is equally of great concern.
So apologies for that. We must have mixed those two videos. So that last video that you've just seen on Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka was on the electoral reforms. And then earlier on, the members of parliament were giving their views on the education reforms, particularly those that had been recommended by the Presidential Working Party on education reform. So the House there just disagreeing perhaps with a bit of what the report has stated. So apologies for that. Now, moving on, Anne Adhiambo, the prime suspect in the murder of Nairobi Hospital Finance Director Eric Maigo, will remain in police custody for the next 21 days to allow time for thorough investigations. Principal Magistrate Zainab Abdul stated the investigating officer is required to verify the age of the suspect before the court decides the direction of the case. The case is set to be mentioned on the 18th of October. Doctors in Nakuru County downed their tools, citing negligence from the county government. The medics are demanding implementation of the 2017 collective bargaining agreement, increase of salaries, additional doctors, promotion to permanent and pensionable terms is some of the outlines. This comes after the 21-day strike notice elapsed earlier on Wednesday.
As we speak here, the services in Nakuru County, the health services, stand disrupted and halted because of a strike or an industrial action that began last night at midnight. As a union, we gave a strike notice on the 4th of September. They received it on the 5th of September. It was a 21-day notice. But if you can count, today is the 24th day, and the county has shown no interest at all to address the issues that the union raised. As a union, we know very much aware that when you go on strike, it's not a walk in the park, people die, people lose their lives. Yet we have to take it as the last resort for employers who don't want to come to the table to address the issues that we raised. We gave them time, we went for conciliation, they refused to send their memoranda. We took them to court, they refused to respond. So we are sadly left with no option but to...
Now, Kenya joined the world in marking World Tourism Day. Mombasa Governor Abdul Swamad Nasir has stressed on the need for the national government to lift visa requirements for cruise international visitors to attract more tourists. Tourism stakeholders have noted that they are set to increase rates for local and foreign tourists following the high cost of living, and this will be implemented from the start of 2024.
We have contributed 10.39% to the GDP. This year, inshallah, 2023, we are looking at contributing not less than 12.5% to the GDP. That is no rocket science that tourism is the backbone of Kenya Coast.
The issue of visa issuance for every cruise ship that is able to dock in Mombasa. I'm informed that one of the largest cruise ships is going to be in Mombasa by February of this coming year. When you have 4,000 people who have spending money and they're going to be in Mombasa over a short period of time, that is going to be a boost to the county of Mombasa and the country in general.
That we have a lot of things to celebrate. You remember during the COVID-19 and that particular period, the entire industry was shut down, and we really suffered in terms of business, occupancies went down, and the industry was in its knees. So we're very happy that we have something to celebrate. We've seen in the last 3 quarters of the year, the tourism industry is poised to be able to grow. We are actually on a growth trajectory, and that is something that is very good, because that means that we're able to get livelihoods, we are able to earn from tourism, county governments and the society is able to benefit from tourism, and there's nothing as good as benefiting from a sector that you're actually working in. We are also celebrating because we have had a lot of investment that has actually been targeted for the tourism, circuit tourism region, particularly in the coast region, the expansion of infrastructure, the incoming of charter flights and airlines, the gradual opening up of the skies to be able to allow more tourists to be able to fly directly to the destination. All these are things that make us very happy as a destination and as a people, and we're very happy for that particular development.
All right, so well, let's take a look at the newspapers, what is making headlines and why. I've got the three of them, the Daily Nation, the Standard and the Star, quite synonymous this morning. That is concerning the African Cup of Nations 2027 rights. So we'll kick it off with just how the Standard has put it. Real hard work to AFCON 2027 begins. Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania's joint bid to host the Africa Cup of Nations in 2027 was yesterday, Wednesday, accepted. The heavy lifting starts with refurbishment of stadiums, serious investment in training grounds, and talent injection in national teams. That is a story that is on page 4 and page 5 of the Standard that just highlights the importance of this a particular assignment that we've been given as the East African community nations and we presented this with the Pamoja bid. And so why East Africa must ensure safe, credible delivery of 2027 African Cup of Nations. The Confederation of African Football, which is also known as CAF, requires AFCON hosts to have 6 stadiums in readiness for the tournament. Kenya is set to present Kasarani, Nyayo, and the Kipkeino Stadium in Eldoret. So those are 3, and that the new stadium that will be constructed, known as the Talanta Stadium. Now the facility is full of overgrown grass, broken bottles, empty beer cans, as well as scattered plastic cups that don't smell of soda or juice, but something more potent. There are many waste plastic bags littered around, dusty seats, some broken from a huge part of the facility. Most of the time, water cisterns in the toilets are broken and locked. And for a few that are open, the stench that permeates the stadium stands may leave an infant in a daze. That the drainage is blocked is no longer good news. Well, that is the state of affairs of majority of the stadiums in Kenya, where concrete spots are moldy and mostly wasting away. However, that could change as the Ministry of Sports recently launched the new plan of building a couple of stadiums, which includes that will be constructed, the Talanta Stadium, but also refurbished Moi Kasarani Stadium, as well as the Nyayo Stadium and the Kipchoge Keino Stadium in Eldoret, or Kipkeino, pardon me, not Kipchoge Keino, Kipkeino Stadium in Eldoret. So those are the 4 stadiums that should at least be ready by 2027, lest we risk being stripped of the rights to host the 2027 African Cup of Nations. We've seen this happen with Gabon. So it is something that we need to take seriously. Now, it is expected to change, or it must change, what the Confederations of African Cup of Nations have announced as the East Africa Pamoja bid as the winner of the rights to host AFCON 2027. So this basically means Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya will, have various matches happening across the 3 counties. well, it takes about 1 hour, or at least a maximum of 2 hours from here to Tanzania or from here to Uganda. So this will at least ensure that one team can move from one place to the other faster and also can get a state-of-the-art stadium. Nick Mwendwa, the FKF president, has stated that we must pull in one action and deliver a credible tournament. This is our chance to do this and succeed. We can't afford to lose the chance. While the sports CS Sababu Namwamba says, as East Africans, we are one single passport. We speak one language, that's Kiswahili. We have a common agenda, and hosting this tournament is such a big shot in the arm for integration. So, first, Kenya won the bid to host AFCON in 1996 and CHAN 2018, but lost the hosting rights for both tournaments to South Africa and Rwanda, respectively, due to poor preparation. So it is not a done deal just yet. It is one thing to win the tournament bidding rights, but it's another thing to actually host the tournament. So it is, we're just hopeful that having won this tournament, that we'll be able to prepare in advance, get our stadiums ready, our hotels ready, where we're not really worried about the accommodation and the food, because we know we've got the best hotels, we've got the best food, but what we're really worried about is the infrastructure that supports the hosting of this tournament. The stadium, how does it look like? Does it have a shed for the media people to stand on? Does this stadium, have proper changing rooms for both teams, home and away? Does this stadium have a proper place where very important guests, or VVIPs, as we'd love to call them, can be able to sit and just take some refreshments or some water as they wait for the match? Do we have a field where we can have things like the VAR, or at least a booth station where we can have things like the VAR where these commentators will sit? Is it a proper place? So there's so many things that go into the field, and not just that section, but also on the pitch. How does the grass look like? Is the width proper enough to the standards that CAF requires? So there are so many conditions that have been lifted for a CAF-approved stadium. I could take all day listing all of them, but it's just a matter of preparation. And remember also that this stadium have been given to the Kenya Defence Forces, KDF, and so we've looked at what they did to, to the previous stadium that they just recently constructed, Ulinzi Sports Complex. So if you look at that and just what they can do, of course, a higher budget, which means a higher, expectations will be set up. But, there's a belief that the defense forces or the security people will be able to deliver. Egypt, I believe, was able to also give their, one of the African nations, whether it's Egypt or Morocco, was able to give one of their, security personnel the rights to construct the stadiums, and it turned out perfectly. So that is one of the things that we'll be looking forward to. So joy and excitement as Pamoja bid finally receives the CAF nod, and that will be something we'll be looking forward to. So I'll just also show you what how the Star has put it. Kenya wins big with 2027 AFCON rights. Kenya wins big with 2027 AFCON rights. It will be the 36th edition of the competition and will be hosted by 3 countries for the first time. So in case you're wondering how is it possible, because remember the World Cup come 2026 will be hosted as well amongst a couple of nations. So it's not quite the biggest problem. It's just a question of preparedness. So coming home, the biggest continental football bonanza returns to East Africa after 51 years. And then the Daily Nation has put it as it's coming home. AFCON 2027, football extravaganza, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania's joint bid to host the 2027 African Cup of Nations was given the green light by the Confederation of African Football, signaling the continental's body confidence in the 3 countries' capability to hold the tournament, the first in the region since 1976 in Ethiopia. But if the hard work doesn't start now, we may lose out once again. So this is the point where we are crossing our fingers that corruption does not find its way into the construction of these stadiums, or to the money that is meant to construct these stadiums. So it's coming home. That's what the Daily Nation has put it, or how it has put it. So you can give us your feedback. What are your expectations, really? with the 3 East African countries hosting this tournament in 2027. It says a lot, really, that, for us to be able to host this, continental showdown means we can host so many more only if we are ready. So your feedback is highly welcome. So that is the headlines that are quite similar on the 3 local dailies. But so let's turn away from that. Also, Daily Nation talks about Muthama, Ndemo, and 1 billion shillings fraud in Konza. As President William Ruto's administration plans to pick up the pace on the Konza Technopolis project, a recent court decision has revealed that Kenya's flagship tech hub is built on a foundation of fraud that was planned and aided by senior government officials. On July 4th, in a decision that went largely unnoticed, Justice Lawrence Mugambi delivered a stinging indictment of Kenya's criminal justice system, as he noted that the fraud scheme's masterminds, based on the evidence presented to him during the trial, managed to use the courts to wriggle out of prosecution. So Muthama, Ndemo, and 1 billion shillings fraud in Konza, the Konza city that never was actually and has never been till date. So how the big fish got away in 1 billion shillings Konza heist as the 3 were jailed. So procurement laws were disregarded as the government bought 5,000 acres for Konza Technopolis project. But what happened to the project? That's the big question. Well, it never started. And there are procurement flaws that were witnessed in some of the activities within that particular area, and who are the center of it is Professor Ndemo and Johnson Muthama, who managed to get court orders barring the prosecution over fraud. So that is the latest of corruption issues or corruption heists that have at least been highlighted by the court. Also talk about Josphat Nanok, the former Turkana governor, as well, who has a case to answer of 5 billion shillings within that particular county, where the county was spending 3.8 million shillings on a day-to-day basis on travel and per diems. And yet, it was during the COVID-19 era and travel restrictions were there. So that is just the latest spotlight on corruption in the country. Now, Nation also talks about tea farmers set for bonus next month. That is on business, even as a teenager in Maigo murder case to be held for 21 days. The 16-year-old girl, who is the main suspect in the murder of Nairobi Hospital Finance Director Eric Maigo, will be held for 21 days after police obtained custodial orders. Now, to the Star, also other issues on top of the page include prepare for higher sugar prices as shortage hits Comesa market. A sugar crisis is looming following the acute shortage of commodities in the Comesa market. The shortage is expected to further increase sugar prices in the coming months following the government's ban on sugarcane milling in Western Kenya and the Nyando sugar belt. So, sugar prices will be rising once again despite how high they are. And then MPs say no to Ruto's education reforms, halt implementation of the CBC report. And then finally, the Standard top of the page also talks about Deputy President's struggles to fit in Ruto's former shoes. 1 year later, the DP's scorecard sees him earning points from milk and tea farmers, but flopping on coffee and illicit alcohol was in central Kenya. Blow to Ruto is MP's question education report, as well as fresh pain as cement prices go up, and click ban nicey nature of bar photos, and why, if you use your customer's photo without their permission, you will be answerable to the courts. So those are the headlines this morning, largely about the African Cup of Nations, which is AFCON, and just the rights, or the bragging rights, at least for now we can say, for Kenya, East Africa, that is Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania to host that particular tournament. But like I've said, it is one thing to get the rights to host it, but it's another thing to actually host it. If we prepare poorly, we might just be stripped of those particular rights. So those are your headlines on the newspapers. So So that takes us to our first break right here on Morning Live. But do stay with us. We've got an amazing conversation coming up next after the break on depression in men. So do men really understand the situation themselves or they find themselves in? And if they do, how do they get out of it? As well as women, what role do we play in fighting depression in men? So that conversation is coming up next. I'll be joined in studio by Vic Otieno, a counseling psychologist, as well as Vincent Omoni, a boy rights advocate or the man rights advocate. So stay with us. That conversation coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere just yet.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Through the morning rush and the buzz. Find a voice you can trust, a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and a voice of hope.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Live. I'm Cynthia Nanjala.
And I'm Sammy Adika. Rise and shine, folks. We hope you are ready for an energizing start to your day.
Absolutely. We are here to bring you the latest headlines and trending news stories from the world of politics,
business and finance, health and lifestyle,
agriculture and sports.
So grab your coffee, sit back and get ready for a fantastic morning of engaging discussions and news segments.
Join us through our social media handles, #The Morning Live. This is Morning Live, exclusively on EBN TV.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters: your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, you should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the Word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on EBN TV. Every Thursday from 8:30 p.m.
Listen, every man needs God, and every man needs to learn to humble himself before God.
Enjoy teachings from Pastor Chris Oyakilome.
Here's what the Lord is instructing you to do. Prepare yourself in the Word of God. Feed your faith. Prepare yourself in the Word.
Build your faith and get to know who you are in Christ Jesus.
Feed your faith. There's a spiritual attack of some kind through sickness. Build your faith strong.
Every Thursday from 8:30 p.m. on EBN TV, transforming your world.
From the 1st of October on EBN TV.
Ninakuja nikuambie mpendwa that all of us have had an encounter with the glory of God.
And every other Sunday from 11 a.m. join Bishop John Kitonga and the Redeemed Gospel Church Huruma family for in-depth teaching and preaching of the word.
Ayubu nilingoja akuwe na hasira sana, akuwe kama vile Elijah alisema, kasema hata afadhali nife alipokuwa anafukuzwa na Jezebel.
And who can forget the praise and worship? Every Sunday from 11 a.m. only on EBN TV.
Every Saturday from 8:30 a.m.
But we should not be afraid to interpret scripture.
Get to know the story behind the Bible. Why was it written? To whom was it written? And what was happening when it was written? Understand, get to know, learn how to properly interpret the scriptures so that you're not deceived.
In the book of Revelation, and we have started to enter into the happenings because these are things that are going to take place hereafter.
Join Pastor Felix Kavoy and his team as they go through the different books of the Bible and give you the theological interpretation of the same.
At the very introduction of the book of Revelation, the book lays clear what is contained in here.
Every Saturday from 8:30 a.m. on The Theology Show, only on EBN, transforming your world.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
This is EBN TV, transforming your world.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters: your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, you should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on EBN TV.
That is the word of the Lord today.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
All right, good morning and welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You are watching Morning Live. We're still here and we're glad that you're still here with us. So we're about to get into the conversation of the day. Largely we'll talk about depression and how women also get depressed, but also men do get depressed. So how do we deal with this? How do they deal with this? As well as to ensure that, they remain mentally sane, as well as our role as the other gender in supporting them and helping them overcome this problem that is global. It's across all genders, but we'll try to zero it down and specifically talk about men. So I'll quickly introduce my guest this morning. I'm joined in studio by Vic Otieno, a counseling psychologist, as well as Vincent Omondi, who is a boy rights advocate. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in this morning. So before we get started, let me just perhaps paint a picture to our audience of why we are focusing on this. So 1 in every 4 Kenyans, that is generally 1 in every 4 Kenyans across the country is depressed. But if you're going to speak particularly about men, for men aged between 40 to 40 years, the depression rate is at 4.9%. That is for men, as well as for persons aged between 15 to 39 years, the depression rate is at 3.1%. So that is specifically for men. Well, the number is a bit lower than what happens in women, but it still calls for a discussion on just men, a gender that rarely open up to other people. So gentlemen, how about we get started from this? And I'll begin with you, Vincent. From where you sit, you really advocate for the boy child a lot. Would you say you understand what depression is, or how does depression look like for you as a man?
I would say that depression is a mental health condition that is characterized by a feeling of feeling sad. It's characterized by sadness and hopelessness, worthlessness. They lose focus. It's something like an individual lose focus from finding the purpose of life.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll come to you, Vic. If you've listened to that explanation that he's given on what depression looks like for him as a young man, would you agree with that?
Yeah, there are many ways in which depression will present in men. Though you will find that in men, you will diagnose depression based on how they will behave rather than how they will feel. We have those cultural norms that tell men to be manly, to be man.
Yes.
So a man will not easily share how he thinks, how he feels. But there are those physical signs you will see with anyone who is close to you. It will tell you that this person is most likely going through depression.
Yeah.
It will manifest in how they are responding to work, their behaviors, and of course people who live with them will notice the smaller signs like the mood change, behavior change, Yes, and it is true, yes. Men do suffer depression just as much as women.
Yeah.
Only that maybe the way we diagnose it is the reason some people think that men are not affected.
Yeah. Now you've mentioned about culture, and I think that is the biggest stumbling block, because a man is raised to be a man, to be a father, to be the leader. So you're not allowed to show any signs of weakness. So with this culture, how where do we start in overcoming this and saying, okay, I'm not okay as a man, I need to stay away from this culture, that I should not talk to someone, that, you know, I cannot open up to somebody. So how do we start now running away from this sort of culture? Because it is the culture that has really dominated a lot of men who are suffering in silence.
Yeah, you're right. But good thing about culture is that culture is dynamic. Culture keeps on changing. Culture has always changed. And, you know, even starting with a program like this, people are getting aware, people are getting information. That depression is actually a mental illness. He rightly explained, it's a mental illness. So, you know, if I give example, if your hand is cut, you do not ignore it because you are a man. So if we can just understand depression as an illness that needs attention. You know, when you cut your hand, it will not heal itself. Someone must treat it. So if we have noticed a mental health issue, it should be attended to.
Yeah. So, Vincent, I'll come to you. This culture of a man should not speak out, a man should really just take it head on and work on it as a man, is what is pushing a lot of men to the wall, because they feel, who am I supposed to open up to? You know, you'll find yourself perhaps in a circle of friends, but no one is talking about their problems. It's just always the happy stories and the good stories. So you're a young adult, you're a young man. How now do we move away from this poor culture? What is a man supposed to do? What are some of the things they are supposed to embrace and say, okay, we can change this culture for good?
I would advise men to break through from this traditional, you know, these harmful traditional norms, you know, the culture, the stereotype, away from this stereotype that makes them feel that they're tough and strong enough to handle situations. You know, can we just break through this thing? And can we just tell men that it's okay to be mentally ill, and it's really okay to be depressed, and you guys, they should just work on. Okay, tell men that they are. It's free to express vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
They should just express vulnerability. They should express that they're ill. They should actually, you know, I would say that. You know, it is a critical issue. Thanks that you actually brought this thing at a moment when we are still in the suicidal time. It's actually suicidal month, you know. It is just 10th of last month. Yeah. So, man, let's break through, and it's okay to be mentally ill. Let's seek help if you really need it.
Yeah. If you look at your circle of friends, are there those that have shown, you know, publicly that they're vulnerable to some of the issues? Is it something that you can say you can relate with? They have either shown vulnerability when you're together as the circle of friends, just male, or are they always holding back? Is it something that you can directly relate to?
You know, following the social construction of men, you know, men, the gender thing, man is actually constructed, gender, man is a construct, you know. And the way they have been socialized in their families, in their whole society, they have been told that you guys, you are tough, you know, be strong. That is the model for them, like our model for them. So it is very hard for them to express their vulnerability. And that's why you find they're pushed to the wall, they engage into other things. For example, they engage in drugs, you know. Yeah, so to me, this society has created men to be that way, and it's really hard for them to come out, and they feel like it's a weakness for them. Yeah, so what I will tell men is to break through, and can we embrace the modern masculinity?
You know, Vic, he speaks of modern masculinity, and for people to embrace modern masculinity. You know, what is this with a man, you know, always trying to be so masculine, you know? Is it something that is from how they were raised? Is it something that they pick along the way? Where does this masculinity really come from them not to embrace opening up and just being vulnerable with other people?
It's a social, you can say cultural, social construct. You are trained to be strong, and it's not a bad thing, by the way. A man is supposed to take leadership, However, when we are talking of mental health, we are talking about an illness. That is why when you are ill, you need help. When you are unwell, you need help.
Yeah.
From what I've noticed, men will rarely speak. By the time they are coming to seek for help, it is obvious to everyone that they are unwell.
Yeah.
It's a point where they can't help it, you know. And this is where women sometimes get help early enough, because a woman will share with their friends, they will speak. A man, to even start describing what is going through, say a man who is going through abuse,
yeah,
they'll rarely speak, you know. So by the time it comes out, it is truly, truly critical. There's nothing they can do about it. So if maybe this kind of information would just help men to open up, so that they know help is available, because in fact help is available. And mental health, like we have said, being an illness, it affects so many people, not just the man. You know, you can imagine if the head of the family is the one who is suffering mental illness, the number of people who are affected. For some people, it will affect the way they work, the way they treat other people,
yeah,
the way they relate with their family members. So that's why they should get help. Yeah.
So as a counseling psychologist, you'll deal with these cases more often than not. And I can imagine you'll see who comes through your door. So if you look at just the gender itself, you know, do men mostly come through the door, or is it just less of them compared to the female?
Of course, very few men will come. And like I said, a man will only seek help when it is obvious, when there's nothing else they can do. Many times they will be pushed by their family members, if they have close family members. But for many ladies will walk in, ladies will tend to seek help. You know, because by their nature they share help. Let's say your friend shares with you what they are going through, and you have information, you refer them to help. As compared to a man who will rarely talk to start with. So you find that many ladies look for help than men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's now get to the depression itself. And as you've said, you know, there are always indicators that this person is depressed, this person is not doing so well. So does it differ from a man to woman how the depression will reflect on the gender, or is it just similar? How a woman will look like depressed is how a man will look like depressed. What are those signs and symptoms that a man shows?
Like I said, depression signs are the same. However, the way they will manifest, or what you will see in a man, because a man will naturally tend to suppress their feelings, okay? They will never speak their feelings. So, but you can see from their behavior and their actions that they are depressed. A woman is able to show the emotional bit of depression, okay? But from a man, you'll see from their actions, maybe things like sleeping, not sleeping, oversleeping, overeating, not eating, sexual performance, you know, anxiety, excessive drinking, dangerous behavior, I mean, driving recklessly, you know. So it will be more in behavior. Not that it is not there, it is there, but men have been trained to naturally suppress how they feel. So if you expect a man to tell you that I'm not feeling well, my mood is not, they will not say, many men will not say.
Yeah.
But how they behave or how they respond to issues will point to you. And now, compared to a woman is able to express, even to their friends, to their family members, you know, they will easily open up. But the signs are still those very signs.
Are just the same.
Yeah.
So, Vincent, you know, Vic talks about the behavior changes. It's more of behavioral. And, you know, he's saying things like, you know, when driving, because, you know, yeah, women do drive, yes, but, you know, when a man drives, as well as these things that we can pick out perhaps in what a man would do is what is changing. So the moment you, as a person that advocates for boy rights, you know, equal boy rights, when you look at these behavioral changes, you know, what do you tell men? What should they do now?
You know, this whole depression thing, it actually starts at the expectation of the society, you know, and the responsibility bestowed upon boy child. You know, for example, where I come from, you'll see a younger boy child on circumstances where family, they've lost their parents, and where parents are addicts. They take responsibility at a very early age. And this is what presses boy child more, you see? And this is what, you know, from that expectation, they feel depressed. They feel like they lose their value and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, what I would advise boy child is to, like, just be free, you know? Yeah, let us be, I tell them, you guys just be free, and it's okay to express vulnerability, you know? Just seek help, and let's practice the emotional intelligence, you know, take care of yourself.
You've actually brought a very important point on emotional intelligence, you know. Men tend to be more emotional intelligent than women sometimes. So, you know, you'll expect it will just automatically tell them, you know, speak out, but they don't. So what is the irony behind that? Being emotionally intelligent, but yet you're not able to pinpoint and say, you know, you're not okay.
You're so different. That? You know, it's very, when I talk about expressing vulnerability, it's very hard. It's hard for men to actually to be sensitive. They are taught not to be sensitive with each other. Yeah, it's very hard to find a man telling a man that I love you. This is so different with women. You know, women
say it all the time.
They say it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So men, let's just break through. Yeah. So, and seek help.
Yeah. Vic, your thoughts here? Emotional intelligence, you know, in a man and not speaking out. Is it ironical, or is it something that can be psychologically explained?
I don't want to say that a man is more intelligent emotionally than a woman. But I guess some people conclude that based on men being able to, you know, so to say, survive on their own. But emotional intelligence has everything to do with the way you relate to people, the way you coexist with others. So I would say it's an individual thing, but some people would conclude men are more intelligent because they are able to survive on their own. And remember, what we are saying is, if you have discovered there's an illness, the illness needs attention. And I think that's the most important bit here.
Exactly.
It needs attention. I've given an example. You are cut in your hand. It needs to be, the wound will not heal itself. You need to do something. You need to see a doctor. You need to see, you know, someone to attend to it.
All right. So now let's talk about the depression triggers. For a man, what are some of these triggers that would take him to that dark side?
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, recent events like losing a job, being divorced, losing a close family member, losing a child, losing a business, these are likely to trigger depression, especially for a man who was always in danger. I hope you know there are people who are always in danger of depression. People like perfectionists, people who worry a lot. There are people who worry a lot. People who are worried about performance. Now, these people, if a recent traumatic event, you know, continuing abuse, living in abuse, you know, and abuse can come from home, can come from the workplace, you know. So these kind of events will likely trigger depression.
Is it to say that anytime that happens, it will take them to the depression? You know, if you lose your job, does it mean you're likely to fall into depression?
Like I said, for someone who was in danger of depression, you know, there are those conditions that predisposes you to depression. Like I've said, you are a perfectionist, you are worried about performance, you are worried about what people are saying, you are living with a person who is depressed, you know, they predisposes you to depression. Now add that to a recent event which is traumatic, and most likely, I'm not saying that everyone, but most likely, depression is likely to occur.
So Vincent, if you listen to the explanation, it seems like a man is a ticking time bomb, you know. You're always in danger of something. You just don't know it yet. You're always in danger of something. So, you know, you're basically ticking time bombs that are walking around.
I would say that, okay, we are in danger. We're always in danger. But
yeah.
It's the boy-child nature, the perception of the society, you know, how we perceive, you know, boy-child, the figure of boy-child outside there, how they're being perceived. They're perceived differently, you see, in different angles. And just whatever psychologists have said here, you know, apart from those other things, you know, it's okay to lose a job.
Yeah.
And men do not know that it's okay to lose it. It is the expectation of the society. Yeah. That makes this man, that presses this man, because I want to live to the expectation of the society, the expectation of my family, you see. Yeah, so that is what triggers this depression. At the end of the day, they will be depressed. And then what?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So from where you sit, how should the society accommodate a man and his feelings? How should we go ahead about that now?
I would say that the society should create a room. They should create a room for men to open up. You know, they should just give us that a ground for us to share whatever is actually affecting us. Yeah. So I'll say that society should give us a room and for us to express ourselves. And then, you know, when I'm saying society will give us a room, look at the girl child situation right now. There are a lot of initiatives that are there with the girl child. You know, the things that wants to help girl child and empower girl child, the advocacy. It is out there, but boy child, where we are left behind. Not in a bad way. It is not bad to mentor women, but it is also good to mentor boy child. Initially, boy child was dominating, but right now, women are taking over. So I would like society to be more inclusive and to help these men to also live with these women. Yeah. Yeah.
So Vic, part of this society that we're talking about, actually, if it's not the men, it's the women, you know. So as women, what is our role in fighting depression in men? How do we now approach this problem? I know he talks of advocacy and advocating for the men, but what does it involve when you say women need to support men?
Okay, you know, every man is close to some man. Every woman is close to some man. You know, your brother, your father, your spouse. I think the starting point would be to just be aware, you know. Be aware that even the man can also be affected by this illness. I call depression a mental illness, and it is because that is what it is. So let's just be aware. Let's not assume that because he's a man, he's a hero. He's a superhero. You know, in superhero movies, superheroes don't die.
They never die.
They never die.
Yeah.
They always win. So let's just know that it is possible for the superhero, the man, to also be unwell. Okay? And now, if once we have known that they can be unwell, then be aware. Look out for the signs. When you see signs, create a safe environment for them to speak. You have children who are boys. Create a safe environment for them to speak. Let them know it is okay to speak to someone. But also men, I'd say, you as a man, form some cycle. Do not live in isolation. You know, I know there can be judgment in the society, but you can form common interest groups. You know, in the office where you are working, in the neighborhood, there are a few men you can join together. You know, I've seen this, especially with I've worked with some group, divorced men, recently divorced men, because at least they're able to come together, talk, share their issues. You know, it's always good to be in some group. Do not be alone. When you are a loner, you will be hurt, and people will not discover. Yes.
So when you've said, you know, the other part of society, which, you know, if you're not talking about the men, you're talking about the women, should be aware.
Yeah.
So is that where now the emotional intelligence we were speaking about that comes in?
Exactly. And all of us should be emotionally aware. Be emotionally aware of our surrounding. You know, even when you walk into the office today, you should be able to see your colleague you work with every day. When you greet them, how do they respond? You know, how do they usually respond? And how have they responded today? And then do you just assume that maybe you woke up? I hear people saying someone waking up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know which side is right. You know, So just being aware, notice those small changes, and be there for your friends, be there for your relatives, you know. Yeah.
Just to on how women can help. You know, we talk about expressing how it comes out, the depression thing.
Yeah.
You know, a man, you don't have to cry. You know, ladies, when they're depressed, they will have to cry. Sometimes they cry. Yeah, you see. And when a man is depressed, it's different. You will see them trying to withdraw. They're so silent and maybe engage into drug activity. So it doesn't, it should not go to the point that a man should be seen cry. A man is not, okay, we are meant not to cry.
Is it wrong to cry?
It is not wrong to cry.
Yeah.
But now, women, can you just try, whoever you are living with, can you just ask them, how are you doing? How is things going? Yeah, that way you will actually find a way to know if this person is really good or this person is depressed. So women can really play a good role in that.
Yeah. You know, Vic here talked about a man forming his own cycle, Vincent, of close people.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, do you as a young man have your own cycle, or at least circle of friends, that you know anytime vitu zikiumana, I am able to go to them? Do you have that?
Yeah, of course we have. Thanks to our governor, Omobay County, Gladys Wanga, and in the office of the first post, the ALREB guys, I really thank them, because they are working towards making something known as dual. Dual is a Luo name. It's like coming together. Yeah. So this is where boy child will come together and share their experiences and challenges and everything that they have. So as one of them, we have one.
You have one. So as you go about your business and engaging with other young men, you know, how do you put it out there for them that they need to have a cycle or a circle of friends? How do you, you know, sort of like convince them? Because convincing this gen is a bit difficult. And unfortunately to say this, but I've also seen it around the office, you know, it seems the relationship from a man to man should just be formal, you know, let's just meet at work and then that's it. But for ladies, we're a bit different because we extend it till, you know, outside the office space. So, you know, what is that language that you use to tell another man, you know, yeah, well, you need friends, you know?
Okay,
how do you
that's
say
why I
it?
said that. You know, we have been, it's something that we have been brought up. You know, society has bred us to not to express vulnerability, like I said. Because women, they will just express it so freely. Like I will tell men, can you just break from this stereotype that it is formal to you to engage in a formal way? Yeah, just make sure you have a friend, one or two friends that you trust, and also try to find a social group. Where you can express your feelings. So I will tell men, just find these groups. And it's okay, just be normal when you interact. Tell a fellow man that you love them.
I think the men in this office will disagree.
Just tell them that you love them. Man. I like you, I like how you wear. That is okay, it's, you know, it brings something out from a man. And they feel good when you tell. If you tell me I'm smart today, I'll feel good. So just let us do it, like as ladies do. Let us do. You know, ladies have done it. Like what a man can do, a lady can do better.
Okay.
Now let's do the way.
All right. So Vic, how long can, you know, these feelings of being depressed really last in a man? You know, does it tend to stay for a long time, in weeks? Can we quantify at least the amount of time a man should stay depressed, or should they at least, you know, seek for help as long as possible? Can we quantify that time where a man is depressed?
You know, there are different levels. It will start as anxiety. No, you know, there's the normal blue days. You know, where you feel you don't feel like going to work. You are not in your form. But when it goes beyond 2 weeks, then now it is classified as it can be classified as depression. Some day somebody will wake up not feeling okay. But if it goes for long, when the symptoms persist beyond 2 weeks, then they need to pay attention to it. Then also there are different treatments for depression depending on the level, severity, and you know the type. So there is a case in which maybe normal help from the families can help you, you know, trying to change your behaviors, things like meditation, things like speaking to people. But then there's a level that a doctor will maybe suggest you see a psychotherapist, you see a psychologist.
Yeah.
Then there's also a level where you will be put on medication, you know. There are antidepressants that will be given to help regulate your mood. Now, antidepressants will start working from between 4 to 6 weeks. Now, depending on the level and the type and the severity, there are different treatments. Yeah, but you should start getting worried when the signs don't ease after 2 weeks.
Yeah, after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'd love you to listen to this statement that is from one of the research centers that they did, you know. They said even though suicide attempt rates are similar between men and women, men are more likely to succeed. And this is often after the depression has reached to that pinnacle point and now they can't do it anymore. So suicide is the only option. So men are more likely to succeed than women. And, you know, it brings out the picture of, I'm sure you must have heard of this case where a man set himself on fire in Mombasa, you know, due to just pressure here and there and depression. So suicide comes in as well when you're talking about depression, because when as a man you've reached to that point where things aren't working out anymore, that is the solution. So what do we do to ensure that it doesn't get to that terrible point?
It's getting help, you know.
Do the men understand themselves that they need to get help? Because I feel like as much as Cynthia will say you need help, but does the man himself understand that he needs help?
You know, information is power. Like this session, for example, if there's a man listening, a man will know that, okay, if I go through these signs and they last more than 2 weeks, then I need to start finding help. You have said a man, when they attempt to commit suicide, a man will succeed.
Yeah.
Obviously, because he has not talked to anyone. No one is coming to save him. Okay? And number two, since the effect will be, you see, the effect shall have really worked him from inside. So much so that he reaches a point where he's saying he has no hope. But the reason why people will kill themselves is because when there is no more hope, when they feel like it is hopeless to live anymore, the other people can do without me, I'm not good enough. At that level, he will succeed. He has not been sharing with anyone. A woman will be giving signs here and there. I'm not okay. Even if she's not speaking, but she's giving signs. Some men will just isolate. And you know, before you realize it, we have seen cases of suicide where someone is seen, superstars, is seen, Kumba is going through a lot. One day you just wake up and it's gone. You know. So seeking help, we cannot stop saying seek help. And also, let's be our brother's keepers, you know. Yeah.
So Vincent, suicide seems to be
I
like...
will say that, you know, the more, someone told me that the more you are known outside there, that the more you are lonely.
Fame? You mean fame?
Fame,
Yeah.
The more you're famous, the more you're lonely. I don't know how that comes in, but I will tell men that this thing is beyond power. And it is beyond respect. You know, men value respect and power. I will tell them, can you just, men need love. See? You need, beyond of us need love. It is not about dominance and power thing and respect. Yeah, so men just come out and speak out.
Yeah.
When you have issues, just speak out.
And also it seems as if majority of the gender, or at least for the age, is young people who are the most affected. Earlier I gave statistics and said, you know, between 40 to 44 years, 4.9% of men go through depression, while from the age of 15, that's a teenager, all the way to 39 years of age, it's 3.1%. But for young people, it tends to manifest a lot more than for the age between 40 to 44 years. And I know you're actually doing your master's right now at the university. So you are around these young people a lot, you know. So how does it, you know, be like for young people? How do they cope with this?
It's really hard to cope, you know, with the current society, you know, our generation. We are the generations that right now. And like, you know, the generation why I've been brought up with the good boomers, you know, These guys, they don't understand the
Yeah.
changes that, and the more at the place where things change, and there is a lot of expectation for these young individuals. You have to find for yourself, you know, especially men. When you get to the university after that year, you're left, you see. So, and when you graduate from school, what do they expect? You already have a job. Yeah. So that expectation, can we limit the expectation?
Yeah.
And can we find help to these people, to these young individuals, especially the youths right now, who are going through a lot. Cases of unemployment is everywhere. Those who are in school cannot even find ways because, you know, depends with the circumstances. Yeah, so I really want the society to lower the expectation. This goes everywhere. Last time we were in courtship, you know, the ladies. You know, men love beautiful things, and this is something that has been associated with money.
Yeah,
you see.
yeah.
So men, just work on yourself. Hiyo kitu yenye nakunini.
Nakufinyilia.
Get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Vic, if you look at these statistics, between 40 to 44 years, 4.9%, and then 15 to 39 is 3.1%. And so it is, the depression rate is higher amongst the adults. Those are from 40 to 44 years, but lower between, you know, ages between 15 to 39 years. But it seems like those adults tend to deal with it more better than the young people. Is that expected due to perhaps their maturity, or how do you explain that?
Yes, the maturity helps a lot, but I also explain why many, I mean, between the age of 40 to 44, at that time, that is when the family pressure comes in, you know. There is the job pressure, ability to perform. You have been probably in the marriage for about 10 years. There are children in the family. So there is pressure from home, pressure at the workplace, and basically financial pressure. The reason maybe why I'll explain maybe smaller percentage with children is the government is paying attention a bit now about mental health. A majority of government schools, for example, have counselors. I myself counsel in a few schools myself. So, you know, there is an awareness, and young people are likely, when there is help, they are likely to use the help. Okay. But like I'm saying, when the information gets out there, when the information continues, the more information continues to get out there, the more people will rise up and get help. There's also the issue of social media, by the way, especially the young people. You know, we can't say that 3% is small, because those are people, those are people's children. There's the pressure that is got from social media. You are seeing your friends flaunting, you know, good life, so you also like to be like them, not knowing that some of them are giving us fake, you know, fake images.
Yeah.
So maybe the more they are being, they are being informed, they should get to learn that, you know, not everything you see online is true. And you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you know, so that they don't have to. I've seen children who are worried because their friends are having beautiful clothes and they don't have, you know. You mentioned about pressure being placed on people. I'd talk of self-management. You don't expect people to treat you right, but you can learn to cope. And this is what I hope these kind of programs are imparting on our people, that they learn to manage themselves. Because the society will still tell you, hey, you are this old, how come you have not bought a car? You are this old, how come you have not built a house? You know, you have your timeline. As long as you are working hard, you are doing something to make yourself better, you should be fine, you know.
All right, so gentlemen, let's almost wrap this conversation up. There are so many causes that you've been able to mention, you know, perhaps school stress, education stress. There's also the employment crisis, the high cost of living right now. But there's also a fundamental aspect, Vic, on relationships. That is, whether it's with your significant other or someone you've just met in campus. How much do relationships play a role in just how the man tends to react to whether heartbreak or something like that, because it seems you come over cases where a man has committed suicide because so-and-so rejected him, or a man has gone ahead and killed the spouse because, or the girlfriend because they rejected him. So relationships seem to also be quite a big factor in depression amongst men.
Yes, especially among the young men. And you know, our community has been really commercialized. Relationship is purely commercial now. And it takes us back to what we were talking about, emotional intelligence. You know, we are having a group of young men who can't speak to girls unless they have money, unless they can flaunt money. You know, but also just being able to know that I don't have to be like other people. It's a skill that young men should be taught. I don't have to be like other people, you know, and I have my own timetable. I'm not competing against anyone. You also ask yourself, why should a high school, you know, student have a girlfriend? Because a high school student will be stressed. I do counsel them. They are stressed because their girlfriend is speaking to another person.
To another man.
Yeah, to maybe a boda rider. Because a boda rider has money.
Yeah.
And the high school student doesn't have money.
Doesn't have any.
You know, so it's about knowing your time, being emotionally aware, so that you don't have to put yourself in pressure that you don't need. If you are in high school, focus on your studies, focus on sports. You know, if you are in campus first year, you know, you want to date your classmate who is probably having a sugar daddy, you know, it's going to give you unnecessary pressure.
Yeah.
Unnecessary pressure.
So, Vincent, this thing called love brings a lot of pain as well to young men. And, you know, Vic says, you know, it's a skill that they need to be taught to not give themselves a lot of pressure. So for young people, you know, how should they handle, or young men actually, how should they handle relationships so that, you know, the moment they see a red flag or the moment they see a no-go zone sign, they're able to also put themselves away from it, and they've protected themselves emotionally. They can walk away anytime.
I would say there is no formula for handling relationship.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, works for you. But what I'll encouragement, boy child, especially the age of when you're still looking for something, you're still working on your career, you're still working on your job, do not engage into a relationship when you are not ready. That's what I will advise them. Yeah. Because this is something that consumes a lot of your time. I know they say that mapema the best, the earlier the better, so you start earlier. Yes, if it can work for you at that time, focus. You can focus on it as well as you focus on other things. But I will tell a young man who is at the age of, maybe you mentioned high school from 15 to 26 to 24, just focus. If it's your career you're doing, just do it. You don't have to get into something. If it does not work for you, just
it does not work for you.
Yeah. If it's about money, you don't have money, you don't work. So don't live to the standard of that lady. Yeah.
All right. So final word as you wrap it up. As we wrap it up, Vincent, you can go in 30 seconds. What more should men do? You know, you've talked about opening up and just, you know, knowing that there are people always out there for them. But it's a personal choice, actually. It's a personal choice. Both of you can speak on it, but it's a personal choice. So as we wrap it up, what should they do?
I'll tell men that mental health is real. And this is not something that is with women alone. And when you start feeling like you are withdrawing from the society, from the family, from everyone, and you've seen this, you are so aggressive and all the stuff, I'll just let them know that this thing is real. And if you feel like you're having such kind of symptoms, can you just find help? You just can talk with someone, you don't have to go to therapy. But also, you can go to therapy if you can. Yeah, but just talk out. Let's open up. Let's learn to express our vulnerability. Okay? And it is okay to be depressed. Yeah. And then lastly, I will thank my... I would actually, first I would advocate for an inclusive advocacy for men. Let us just come out as a society and help men together. Yeah, we will pass through this. And then I will thank my team from Mabe. I'll thank the Child Fund and the ADS. they are really working towards engaging boy child into their programs, as well as our governor Gladys Wanga, who is also, I know, is watching right now. So thank you very much and for your work that you are doing for the boy child.
All right. Vic, as we wrap it up, you said more men don't come through your door for help if they or when they're not okay. So as you wind it up in just a few seconds, what should we do for them to come through the door when they're not feeling okay, you know?
Like I said, mental health is an illness. Depression is an illness. It's a mental health illness. Now, an illness must be attended to. Let's start by having cycles. Do not be alone. Do not be a loner. There must be some man who can be your friend. There must be somebody who can be close to you. Have your own cycle. It doesn't help to be alone. And when you notice these signs, we have talked about them, please seek help. Seek help. Help is available, but you will need to go outside there and look for it.
Yeah.
The help will not look for you in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much to you two gentlemen, Vic Otieno, a counseling psychologist, as well as Vincent Omonde, who is a boy child rights advocate, for coming in this morning to just shed more light. And I'll just reiterate what you've said, Vic. Help will not come to you at home. You need to go out and look for it if you know that you're not okay and when you know that you're not okay. So that has been the conversation this morning on depression in men. We hope that you've learned generally, or you've learned a lot actually, and that generally speaking, you're able to identify some of this problem in men, or at least the boy child, and how you can go about in helping them. It's not just a men's problem, it's a society problem that includes women as well. So it's up to you and I also to be able to help them overcome this problem. So that has been the conversation. Thank you so much for watching. If you've missed this, you can rewatch it on our Facebook page, on EBN TV, as well as our YouTube page. And the conversation, of course, does not always have to end it here. We can keep it going throughout the day. So thank you for watching. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Have yourselves a wonderful morning. Thank you so much, Papa.